There's a quiet kind of pain that doesn't scream. It doesn't leave bruises, doesn't stain your skin, doesn't draw questions from strangers, but it lives in the background of your every thought. It hums beneath your happiest moments, soft and sharp, like a whisper you can't unhear. It's the ache of wanting something, someone, some outcome, some moment so deeply that your entire being clings to it like a life raft. And maybe you don't say it out loud, but some part of you believes, if I just get this, I'll finally be okay. So you grip, you TRYO. It's not that you're ungrateful. You're just tired. Tired of being the one who always holds it together. Tired of chasing calm in a world that keeps asking for more. But here's the thing. Most people won't say out loud. That kind of needing, the desperate grasping kind, it doesn't lead you to what you're looking for. It pulls you further away. Because the more tightly you hold on to something, the less room you give it to breathe. And what is meant to stay cannot survive in clenched fists. It needs space. It needs stillness. It needs you to remember that you were already whole before the craving began. But I get it. When you've been empty for so long, stillness feels like a threat. It feels like giving up, like admitting you don't care. But maybe stillness isn't surrender. Maybe it's trust in disguise. Maybe letting go of needing isn't the same as letting go of desire. Maybe it's just loosening the grip so you can finally receive what's been circling you all along. Because when you're ruled by need, even the good things don't feel good. You get love, but you can't rest in it. You get peace, but you mistrust it. You get success, but you immediately wonder how long it'll last. And that's the wound no one sees. The one that tells you happiness is a door with a lock and someone else holds the key. But what if that key has always been in your hands? What if the moment you stop grasping, you actually start receiving? Have you ever tried to hold water in your hands? You cup them carefully, try to catch every drop. But the tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers. That's how life works too. Especially the parts we long for the most. You say you're ready to receive. But underneath your energy is all grip. You want clarity, but you're not willing to sit in the silence that brings it. You want love, but you enter every conversation afraid of being left. You want freedom, but you try to micromanage the path that leads there. And then when it doesn't come, you tell yourself you're being punished. But what if you're not being punished? What if you're just not open? Not really, because openness isn't about begging louder. It's about softening. Letting your hands and your heart loosen their hold on how things must arrive. We're taught to hustle, to fight, to chase, to mold ourselves into magnets. But no one tells you how exhausting it is to live that way, to be in a constant state of reaching, to base your peace on whether or not the thing shows up. You don't realize how much you're clenching until you're finally asked to be still, until you feel that quiet panic rising in your chest when you're not in control, until silence feels louder than chaos because you've used noise as a disguise for so long. But the truth is, what's meant for you doesn't knock when you're pacing. It doesn't arrive when your fists are full. It comes when you're no longer trying to manipulate the moment into something you can predict. It comes when you stop trying to impress it and instead begin to trust it. The trap is subtle. It dresses up like diligence. It looks like commitment. But underneath, it's just fear in a beautiful costume. Fear that says, if I don't hold on tight, I'll lose everything. Fear that whispers, if I don't chase it, it'll never come. But what if the opposite is true? What if by letting go, not of your dream, but of the desperation around it, you create space for life to breathe you into something better? Not forced, not chased, just flowed. There's a strange moment that happens when you finally get what you thought you couldn't live without. You hold it, you touch it, you finally see it in your life. And yet, you don't feel the peace you expected. Instead, there's tension, there's fear, a tight knot in your chest whispering, "What if I lose it?" Because when you've spent so long needing something, not simply wanting, but needing, you don't receive it with peace. You receive it with panic. That's the tragedy no one prepares us for. We spend years chasing what we believe will heal the ache, the love, the job, the clarity, the validation. But we don't realize that our need has turned them into saviors. And no person or moment was ever meant to carry that weight. You can't build a healthy love on top of fear. You can't enjoy success while still doubting your worth. You can't rest in peace if you still believe that silence means something's wrong. When you finally receive what you've begged the universe for, but you haven't healed your need, you don't experience it fully. You cling, you question, you brace for the fall. And that's not receiving, that's surviving. But life isn't meant to be survived in fear of losing what you love. It's meant to be lived open, present, whole. So maybe it's not about having less desire. It's about unlearning the belief that your wholeness is locked inside the things you chase. You were not born with a missing piece. You were taught to feel hollow, to believe that something out there, a person, a goal, a moment, would finally make you enough. But what if? You are not missing anything. You've just forgotten how to trust the quiet inside you. The kind of quiet that says, "I'm okay now. I'd love to receive this. But even if it never arrives, I am still enough." That kind of peace, it changes how everything comes to you. Because you're no longer broadcasting need, you're offering wholeness. And wholeness doesn't chase, it welcomes. Sometimes, the greatest transformation doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't feel like a breakthrough. It feels like a breath. A long, quiet exhale after years of holding yourself together. You don't even realize how long you've been tense until you begin to loosen. Not because the world gave you what you wanted, but because you stopped demanding it to. This is the moment where everything begins to change. Not outside, inside. When you say, "I still want it, but I don't need it to be okay." That sentence, whispered softly to your own heart, is one of the most powerful prayers you'll ever speak, because it marks the shift from gripping to trusting, from controlling to allowing, from anxiety to presence. Trust isn't loud. It doesn't knock on the door with promises. It sits beside you in silence and says, "You don't have to force what's already making its way to you." But we're not taught this kind of softness. We're taught to prove, to chase, to hustle harder when things don't show up. And so trusting can feel unnatural at first, even risky, like standing at the edge of something invisible and hoping it will hold you. But over time, you begin to feel the truth of it, that you are not behind, you are not being punished, you are not being tested to see if you're worthy. You are being invited to finally stop fighting, to stop searching for home in every hand that touches yours, to stop tying your peace to outcomes that were never meant to define you, And in that soft moment, when you stop trying to make life arrive on your terms, life begins to respond in ways you couldn't predict. Not because you earned it, not because you strategized it, but because your heart finally became quiet enough to let it in. There was a time I mistook control for safety. I planned everything down to the smallest detail. Every text was measured, every emotion filtered, every risk avoided. And I thought that if I could just stay ahead of the unknown, I could finally feel at peace. But peace never came, only exhaustion. Because what I was really doing wasn't living, it was defending. Defending against disappointment, against rejection, against the possibility that things might not go my way. And the irony, the more I tried to control, the more chaotic life became. Because control is a mask. A thin illusion we use to hide our fear that maybe we are not enough if life doesn't turn out the way we hope. You tell yourself, if I just get them to understand me, I'll feel seen. If I just work harder, I'll feel worthy. If I just get this one thing, I'll finally be okay. But here's the painful truth. Even when you get it, the fear stays. The fear that it will leave, that you'll lose it, that the calm is temporary and the storm is already on its way back. Because when you build peace on control, you never actually rest in it. You scan for cracks. You overanalyze every silence. You keep rehearsing your smile just to make sure people keep loving you. But that's not safety, that's survival. Real peace comes not when everything is in your grasp, but when you no longer feel the need to grasp it at all. I had to learn that the hard way. Through heartbreak. Through friendships I tried to manage into permanence. Through moments I sabotaged because I was too scared to simply let them be. And when it all finally broke, when I couldn't hold it together anymore, something unexpected happened. I didn't fall apart. I just finally let go. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't keep pretending anymore. And in that letting go, that raw, trembling release, I touched something I hadn't felt in years. Stillness. Not the empty kind, the sacred kind. The kind that says you are allowed to rest now. You don't need to control what's already yours. Detachment is often misunderstood. People picture empty eyes, folded arms, a heart barricaded behind stone walls. Yet real detachment is softer than dawn light. It is the slow unclenching of fingers that have forgotten how to rest. It is the quiet realization that love is not a chain. It is a river. And rivers do not need to be caged to stay close. They simply flow beside you when the banks are clear. I remember the night I learned this truth. Rain pressed against my window like gentle applause. I sat alone, nursing the echo of a goodbye I never wanted to hear. Every part of me wanted to chase, to plead, to rewrite the ending. But exhaustion won. I let the memory drift where it wished, without gripping it for one more replay. And in that fragile silence, I felt something unexpected warmth. Not the warmth of their return, but a warmth rising from my own chest, as if my soul had been waiting for me to choose myself first. That is detachment. Not pushing love away, but welcoming yourself back. Not closing doors, but opening windows for fresh air to wander in. When you are no longer afraid of emptiness, you discover it was never empty at all. It was spacious, ready to cradle every version of you had abandoned to please the world. The next morning, nothing dramatic had changed. The city still hummed, bills still waited, absence still lingered. Yet the day felt lighter. because I was no longer carrying the weight of control. I could taste my coffee instead of my worries. I could watch strangers pass without turning their glances into verdicts on my worth. When need dissolves, ordinary moments regain their color. You notice the sky is wider than your losses, and the breeze knows your name. Detachment is not an exit, it is an arrival. You arrive at your own doorstep, barefoot, rain-kissed, unapologetic. You step inside and realize home has always smelled like your favorite memory of safety. From that place, you can hold love with open palms. You can let people stay because they want to, not because you fear they're leaving. You can let dreams unfold in their own timing, the way flowers open without alarms. This quiet homecoming changes how the world hears you. Your words no longer beg, they resonate. Your eyes no longer plead, they invite. Life feels the shift and begins to mirror it back. Opportunities find you because your door is no longer blocked by frantic hands. Love recognizes you because your energy is clear, not clouded by desperation. And if something chooses to walk away, you bless its path. Not out of bitterness, but because you finally trust the tides that guide both coming and going. You stand on your shore, rooted whole, whispering to the horizon, I am here and here is enough. It's strange, isn't it? The moment you stop chasing something, it starts circling back. Not because you manipulated it, not because you played some perfect game, but because you finally became available, not desperate, not overreaching, just present. You stopped needing them to text back, and somehow they did. You stopped obsessing over how to get that opportunity, and suddenly a door cracked open. It's not magic, it's alignment. Because when you're no longer wrapped in the energy of need, you stop pushing what you want away. There's a quiet kind of magnetism in a person who no longer begs the world to notice them. They walk differently. They speak without trying to prove anything. They don't grip so tightly that life slips through their fingers. They've become someone who can hold what's real without squeezing it to death. And that energy, it's unmistakable. You don't fall in love with someone because they chase you. You fall in love with the way they carry peace, with the way they make you feel safe without saying a word, with the way they don't need you to complete them, but somehow being with them reminds you of your own wholeness. That's the person life flows toward, the one who doesn't shrink to be chosen, the one who doesn't overperform just to earn a seat at the table, the one who knows, if it's meant for me, I won't have to fight to hold it. You start living from a deeper place, not of lack, but of trust, not of hunger, but of clarity. And clarity changes everything. You no longer say yes out of fear. You don't cling to halfway love hoping it will grow into something whole. You stop confusing breadcrumbs for a feast because you've remembered what fullness feels like. And once you've touched that, you won't trade it for noise ever again. So, what happens next? You become a quiet invitation. Not an echo of someone else's desires, but a steady pulse of your own truth. And life responds. Not all at once, not with grand gestures, but with little signs that say, yes, now you're ready. Life doesn't always test you with chaos. Sometimes it tests you with silence, with delays, with unanswered questions that stretch across days like an empty sky. Not because it wants to break you, but because it wants to reveal you to yourself. There will be mornings when nothing moves, when the message doesn't come, when the thing you've prayed for is still just a maybe. And in those still echoing moments, your old self will panic. It will want to fill the space with action, to send another text, to explain yourself one more time, to force something to happen just to feel alive. But the new you, the one slowly rising from the ashes of old patterns, that version pauses, breathes, waits not out of fear, but out of trust. Because trust doesn't need constant reassurance. It doesn't ask for proof every 5 minutes. It knows that what is real doesn't vanish just because it's quiet. You begin to understand the difference between reaction and response. Need reacts. Trust responds. And there is power in choosing the pause, the sacred in-between, where your ego quiets and your soul gets a chance to speak. This is where you're shaped, not in the applause, but in the waiting, not in the yes, but in how you stand through the no. There's no audience, no spotlight, just you, alone with your inner compass, asking yourself, can I stay still when nothing is guaranteed? And if the answer is yes, even just once, you become someone who no longer begs for peace. You become someone who carries it. This is what most people miss. They think the test is about outcome, but it's never about whether or not the thing arrives. It's about who you become while you wait, and how gently you can hold yourself when nothing outside you is giving permission to breathe. Because that right there is the kind of strength the world doesn't teach, but life always honors. It begins slowly, so quietly you almost miss it. You wake up one day and notice the sky, really notice it. Not because you're searching for a sign, but because it's beautiful. And that's enough. You feel a softness in your chest where there used to be tightness. A gentle kind of peace, not loud, not triumphant, just steady, like a heartbeat you've learned to trust again. You don't need the message to come today. You're not waiting for someone to finally understand. You're not holding your breath until life proves your worth, because something has shifted, and that something is you. You've stopped living in survival. You've stopped tying your joy to outcomes that used to hold you hostage. You've stopped begging for love to make you lovable, for silence to mean you failed, for every delay to mean you've been forgotten. You walk slower now, not because you're lost, but because you're no longer running from emptiness. You've learned that emptiness was never the enemy. It was the doorway, the place where old versions of you quietly dissolved so that something softer, clearer, stronger could be born. You begin to live in rhythm with what's real, not what's missing. You no longer whisper, "Please stay," under your breath every time life hands you something good. You simply say, "Thank you," and trust that what's meant to remain will. And what isn't, you can bless that too. You're no longer shaping yourself around fear. You're not shrinking to fit. You're not inflating to impress. You're just you, unfolded, honest, here. And the most extraordinary part, you don't need more to feel more, because you've remembered the truth you forgot. Wholeness was never a destination. It was the place you were always meant to begin. So let life rise to meet that version of you, the one who no longer performs peace, but lives in it. Let it come not to rescue you, but to dance with you, to walk beside the version of you that no longer reaches because she remembers she is already home.